This episode is brought to you by Cheddar, a channel that makes videos on business, technology, media, and news, but without the boring parts. Be sure to check out their video on the rise and fall of Kodak after this. If you were born in the mid-90s or before, odds are you remember your first cell phone as a blocky piece of plastic with tiny T9 keys, a primitive screen, and maybe brick breaker and email functionality if you were on the cutting edge. In those days, a cell phone was a novelty and a small convenience. You could keep tabs on your loved ones more easily, read a business email while out for lunch, or just kill some time on the train playing a simple game on the dimly lit screen. This burgeoning technology promised a bright future full of convenience, productivity, safety, and leisure, all available right in your pocket, or hip holster in those days. And for a while, that seemed like it would be the case. But over the past decade or so, our technology and how we use it has warped into an unhealthy, dependent relationship. Gone are the days when cell phones were a simple means of communication. With the advent of social media and enhanced functionality of digital devices, we've found ourselves trapped in a toxic, media-heavy environment of our own creation. Increasingly, we've seen that people both hate and depend on their phones. Many consumers report wishing they could just get rid of their devices, but can't because they feel anxious or out of the loop without them. A growing mistrust of smart devices and big tech companies has people on edge and nervous about how their activity is being monitored. We fear for the privacy and mental health of children and young adults who have never known a time without the internet. We worry that automation is going to take our jobs. It's no surprise that a growing portion of the population is turning to older, simpler, less intrusive, and more intentional technology to balance out the effect of the hypersaturation of modern tech. Many of you watching this video have probably never tried to type a message on a keyboard like this, or sat patiently waiting to get online while your computer made awful sounds like this. Modern technology is vastly more efficient and pleasant to use. Streaming music through Spotify is much easier than putting on a record, then having to flip it halfway through the album. You can store thousands of books on a Kindle and take them with you anywhere. So why are physical book sales on the rise? Why do newly pressed vinyl records fly off the shelves at a rate of 200,000 per week in the US alone? Where are all these small, independent brick-and-mortar shops coming from? It's not an isolated trend either. It applies to a wide range of analog technologies. Sales of instant film cameras and film stock are way up, some companies even reintroducing previously discontinued film stocks. Medium format film cameras that have gathered dust for decades are being snatched up so quickly that their prices have skyrocketed. Paper notebooks are everywhere. Board games have become hugely popular, with fantastic new games coming out all the time. Why? Because each of these things requires intentionality. Listening to an album on vinyl is an event. Carefully select what you want to listen to, place the record on the turntable, make sure there's no fuzz on the disc or needle, start up the player, line up your needle, and lower it onto the vinyl. Halfway through, or even sooner on double LPs, you have to repeat the process. It's a ritual. Then of course you have to take care of your collection. Records have a tendency to warp in the heat or if they're stored improperly. But for all the hundreds of thousands of people with growing record collections, it doesn't matter. That's part of the appeal. It's not just something you mindlessly put on while you scroll through Twitter. It's more of an experience, and audiophiles will tell you that you'll get better sound out of a good vinyl setup than anything you'll hear on Spotify or highly compressed MP3 files. But surely this is just nostalgia, right? People who grew up with these technologies are pining for the good old days of their favorite artist or the smell of dusty old books. Perhaps surprisingly, that's not the case. A large portion of the people adopting analog hobbies never had a record player growing up. They had never shot film before. They grew up never having experienced dial-up internet. It's not nostalgia, it's a conscious rejection of the parasitic relationship with modern technology. Cell phones and social media aren't all bad, but they can take a real toll on your mental state. Picking up a paper book and experiencing reading something without a backlight is a novel experience, if you'll excuse the pun. Think about it. A physical book engages almost all your senses. The feel of the pages between your fingers, the smell of the paper and glue, the look of the cover and the text against the paper, the rustle of dry pages, even the taste of inky paper if you lick your fingers to turn the page. And it's more than that. No one will notice or talk to you if you're reading an ebook on the train. But if someone sees their favorite author on the spine of the physical book you're reading, it could spark conversation. It's a way to make friends, acquaintances, even form new relationships, just by doing something as simple as carrying a book around. It can be an interpersonal experience as well as a private one enjoyed at home. The same goes for cameras and photography. We all have pretty capable cameras built into our phones. They're incredibly convenient, but when you can take a picture of anything, anywhere, at any time, the photos start to pile up. When was the last time you really went through your camera roll to enjoy the pictures you've taken? How many of them are actually good or meaningful? Even digital cameras, as great as they are, often cause the same effect. How many trendy pictures of feet do we have to see before we realize that the convenience of digital cameras has made us willing to take pictures of nothing significant? That's not to say digital photography is bad. On the contrary, I love cameras so much that I'm starting a second channel all about gear and making a living as a digital creator. But I also see the benefit of shooting with older, slower, more limited technology. Take a simple 35mm film camera. You choose the film stock you want. You're then limited to the scenarios in which that film excels for the next 24 or 36 frames, depending on the role. Do you want to shoot black and white or color? Indoor or outdoor? High or low ISO? How contrasty do you like your images? And that's all just the film. Depending on how old or mechanical the camera is, you might not have a light meter, so you really have to understand how the shutter speed and aperture work together with the film's ISO rating to properly expose your shots. Odds are you'll have to focus manually, and when you take the shot, you're never sure if you got it just right. You have to have it developed and scanned, or do it yourself. Shooting film is a vastly different experience from shooting digital. Once you get the hang of it, you'll find that you have more keepers from your rolls of film than from your digital shoots, just because you're more intentional with how you take your shots on film. Analog technology lets you leave the distractions behind and focus on that one thing, even if it's just for a short time. A book can be given as a gift, displayed on a shelf, or selected carefully to be read on vacation. Vinyl records are a more active listening experience, free from the never-ending playlist on streaming services, and can be hugely satisfying to collect, maintain, and display in your home. Mechanical film cameras force you to slow down, hone your skills, and really consider what you want to capture. You can keep the negatives in special binders to preserve for future generations, or print your shots to display proudly for everyone to see. The analog renaissance isn't just nostalgia, it's a conscious lifestyle shift for people who want to bring more balance to their day-to-day life. It frees you from the emotional manipulation of social media, the endless scrolling of Instagram and Reddit, the always connected mindset that plagues most of our society. Independent bookstores, coffee shops, and other artisanal brick and mortars give like-minded people a place to get together, meet new friends, and really experience the life they feel like they've been missing. And there's no fear of automation when the whole appeal of these places is the personal connection rather than maximizing profits. In a way, the digital revolution helped us to finally realize what's really important, and the difference between experiential happiness and media sedation. Former giants of the analog industry are catching on, and providing support for these rapidly growing groups. Producers of vinyl records are spinning back up, and the once mighty Kodak is reintroducing old film stocks, adding some new ones, and is even bringing a new Super 8 movie camera to market. A good friend of mine who runs the channel Royal Ocean Film Society worked with Kodak to shoot a promo for the camera last summer, and I was lucky enough to be part of the project. It was so cool to see a new version of this older analog technology. If you'd like to learn more about the rise and precipitous fall of Kodak as a near monopoly, check out this video from Cheddar. Cheddar is a fun channel that covers business, technology, media, and news, but without all the boring stuff. Their video on Kodak is an interesting look at the beginning of the digital revolution that followed the golden age of film, and a precursor to the resurgence of analog. Go check it out by following the link in the description. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a topic that I think is super fascinating, and one that I'll explore in more detail on my new channel when it launches in the near future. If you have any requests for future videos, leave them in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.